Hey there, welcome to Second Marriage Matters. This is the first class in this series, and I'm so glad you have decided to spend some time with me today. I know that you will be so happy that you did. So today, I just want to get right to it. I know time is precious, and I really value your time, and I want you to spend it wisely here. So I want to start by telling you a little story. A few years back, actually, I was backpacking with my family, one of the things we like to do, and my husband was ahead with the faster paced kids, and I was kind of behind with a slower paced child. And we took I didn't realize that I had, but after a while, I started thinking, did I take the wrong trail right here? We were at the very last mile, like the final descent to this high mountain lake that we were going to. And all of a sudden, I started thinking, I think I might have taken the wrong trail. And in my mind, I knew, well, it's not a big deal if I didn't. I can keep going and see if I went the wrong way, because I knew that I would be able to tell if I went a little bit further. Or I turn around and see if I can find people. But the problem is that either way, it was going to be more effort. And the child that I was with probably would have completely had a meltdown if we had to go any further than we needed to go. We were at the last of about an 8-mile hike, and it had been pretty taxing for her. She was only 7, I think, at the time. Anyway, so I thought I better stop and regroup and see what might be my most efficient way to either turn back around and get on the right trail, if that's in fact what I need to do, or if I just keep going ahead if I'm on the right trail. So I stopped and I called the name of my brother-in-law, who I knew would be the closest person to me in distance, wherever he might have been, if he was on the same trail I was on or not. So I yelled his name and I listened, and I didn't hear anything. I waited and I yelled his name again, and that time I heard a reply in the distance. And after hearing that reply and kind of yelling back and forth for a minute, I discovered that I, in fact, was on the wrong trail. And yes, we maybe had hiked a little bit further than what was necessary, but it wasn't going to be a big deal for us just to hike down and then get on the right trail and go up. A lot better than continuing on the wrong path, discovering we had gone the wrong way, and then having to come back down again and then around, right? It was more efficient for me to stop where I was. Okay, so that said, here we are, and we all find ourselves in situations that sometimes we don't expect to be in. You maybe never expected that you would be divorced. You never expected that you would be even looking to getting married for the second time. But here you are, and now the key is to go about this the most efficient way possible. And right now, your brain is full of a ton of fear. It just wants you to kind of freak out. It thinks that it's keeping you safe by helping you to be afraid. So the good news is that you're totally normal and your brain is functioning completely properly, because one of its main functions is to try to keep you safe. But the bad news is that your fear is kind of paralyzing you and helping you or keeping you from being able to move forward and progress in the direction that you want to progress. And you would get there eventually, but it really is not the most efficient way for you. You're going to waste some time hiking on a trail that maybe you don't necessarily need to be on. And if you just walked right back down, got on the right path and hiked up, you would save yourself a lot of pain, a lot of extra overspent energy, and a lot of frustration. And right now, all you can see and feel is the fear and the frustration and the worry about perhaps making another mistake. So that's why I'm here. I'm the second marriage coach. I am here to help you along in that transition, help you find the right trail, keep on that trail, and make it what you want it to be. So for those of you who have been divorced, you're dating, maybe you're even engaged, but you just have all that fear around making the commitment, you're going to find some answers here. For those of you who are have gotten married again and you are working on creating the family unit that you want to create with your new husband and your children and his children and all the new dynamics that comes from being married in a second marriage, and yours, mine, and ours situation, you're going to find answers here, and I'm so glad you're here. So today I want to teach you something. I'm going to just get right to it. I'm going to teach you the tool that can help you find peace. Peace in knowing that you can get married again and be rid of all of that fear that you feel right now. Help you find peace and know that you're not making the wrong choice, that your fear is actually not a sign that you're making a wrong choice, and help you find peace in knowing that you can create the family unit that you want to create with your new husband. So with that, I'm going to teach you the tool. People will say all the time, and I've heard it said many times. In fact, I just heard it said in church on Sunday. It isn't the circumstances in our lives that make us who we are. It's how we react to them. Or they'll say, it's not the things that are happening around you. You just have to choose to feel better about them. And that is all fine and dandy. And it's the truth. I will say, I admit that it's the truth. But that in itself can be really frustrating because that feels so unknown. Like, how do I even do that? How do I go about feeling good and getting rid of fear about something that is so scary? What's the step-by-step process in doing that? And I'm here to teach you the step-by-step process in doing that. When I learned this process, I felt like it basically made my life, which is basically our emotional life and how we react to the things that are going on outside of us in this world, it made that a mathematical equation, like 2 + 2 = 4. And I don't want to minimalize your life and the things that you're going through, but when we can think of our life as 2 + 2 = 4, it takes out all the drama and it gives us all the control and helps us feel like things are manageable. So this is it. This is what I want to teach you. 2 + 2 = 4 in your life. How you get there is what I call the CTFAR model. Now, this model is not something that I've come up on my own. I learned it from my teacher, Brooke Castillo. I'm certified through her school, it's called the Life Coach School. And this is a model that she developed to help us in the world solve basically any problem. And I promise this works. When you use the model correctly, you are able to solve any problem. So I just want to go through every step of the model with you, just give you a brief explanation. You're going to think this is way too simple, and you're going to be tempted to just be like, okay, I'm done with this. She must not know what she's talking about. And I encourage you to hold on until the end, where we can wrap it all together. And I'm going to use a real life example to show you how this works. Let you see how you can actually, yes, have all the circumstances going on outside of you in this world, and you can choose how you're going to react to them. It is completely possible. All right, so let me flip my chart over here. All right, this is the CTFAR model. You guys see that okay? Let me make sure the light's on it okay. There we go. So CTFAR, what that stands for, I'm just going to go through each letter and I'm going to explain it to you. So circumstance is the C in the CTFAR. Circumstances are all the things that are going on outside of you. They are the things that you do not have control over. They are the things that people will say to you. Maybe the things that your new husband or your fiance has said, the things that your ex has said to you, but they are exact quotes. It's not like a summary of what you have, what they've said to you. The CTFA or the C, the circumstance, is always like, if you're going to say it's what they've said, it has to be an exact quote because it is the facts of our life. It is the things that everybody would agree on. So if your life was a movie and everybody was watching it, everybody in the world would have to agree upon what the circumstance was, what was going on. There could be no summary, there could be no descriptors, because what somebody might think is happy, that somebody else might think is sad. So circumstances are always neutral. This is super important. So what else might be in the circumstance line is natural disasters or the weather. People will say tornadoes are not neutral. And I'm going to argue, yes, they are. They are not happy or sad. Tornadoes are just a thing. They are nothing that can create. They do not have the ability to create emotions within you. If things outside of us had the ability to create our emotions, that would take away our agency. And as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, that is a long taught principle in my background, is that we all have the right to choose how we're going to behave. And if things just instantly created a feeling inside of us, that would take away our agency. I know that all circumstances, anything in our life is neutral. So just believe me on that. If you don't believe me, shoot me a text or an email. I'm sorry, heather@heatherrackham.com. Tell me what you think isn't neutral, and I'm going to help you find the neutrality in it, okay? So circumstances are the things people say, the things people do. It's natural disasters. It's the weather. It's the facts of our lives. Once you put a descriptor in there, it's no longer a circumstance. It becomes a thought. So all circumstances in our lives are neutral. They do not have the ability to create, to make us feel happy or sad, mad or glad, frustrated, annoyed. It's our thoughts that we have about the circumstances that come next. That is what is in between our circumstance and how we feel. So the thoughts are the things that happen in our mind, the instant things that we often feel like we don't have control over in our mind. Now, you might think that well, I don't have control over those thoughts. They just happen. And that's because your lower brain is kind of just always on autopilot and running rampant in the background. And that is the part of your brain that is the backseat driver, and that does take charge if you don't take charge intentionally. We have about 60,000 thoughts a day, and most of them are not intentional. They are just things that pop up. So it's learning. Part of the key in this model is learning how to take charge of those thoughts, to use our prefrontal cortex, the part of our brain that is intentional and decides to think things on purpose. But we'll go into that at another point in time, okay? So circumstances and then thoughts. Circumstances create our thoughts, and our thoughts create all of our feelings. This is so important. Our feelings never just happen to us. We think that things outside of us have the ability to make us feel happy or sad, frustrated, afraid, fear. They never do. The things outside of us do not have that control over us unless we allow them to. But our feelings are always a result of our thoughts. They never just happen to us. So I want to teach you a little bit more about feelings right now, because there is a difference between a feeling and a sensation. So feelings are what happen. They are a vibration that we feel in our body. They start in your head as a result of a thought, and they move through your body. Because if you think about it, fear, if you feel that, you feel it everywhere, right? Like when I feel fear, I feel it in my stomach. I get tight in my shoulders. It's a signal. It's a vibration that I feel that is signaled from my brain to the rest of my body, okay? It's a result of something that I thought. Now, the difference between a feeling and a sensation is something that starts in your body and signals something to your brain. So that would be like cold or hot or hunger. That is something that starts in our body and sends a signal back that you need to do something about it. So there's a difference between feelings and sensations. We are talking about feelings. We are talking about the things that happen as a result of your thought. There are very few sensations. People will have a tendency to think, well, this just happened to me. This is just a sensation. And I promise that most of the time, 99.9% of the time, it is a feeling and not a sensation. Okay, feelings. We do everything in our life, and this is why feelings are so important. We do everything in our life because of how we feel. So all of the actions, which is the A line, all of the actions we do in our life, everything we do or we don't do, we do because of how we feel or because of how we think we might feel. So say that you are angry and you yell at your child. You're not just yelling to yell unless you have a loud voice. You're yelling because you feel angry. You're giving your fiance the cold shoulder. You're kind of avoiding him. You're not talking to him because you have some fear and you're just afraid to go all in and commit. Okay. So you're kind of withdrawing a little bit, giving him the cold shoulder. And you're doing that not because of him or something he's done. You're doing it because of your feeling. You're feeling afraid, and so you withdraw. Okay, so that is actually an inaction. That's something you're not doing. You're not connecting with him because of your fear. So everything we do or don't do in this life is because of how we feel. And that makes feelings, like I said, super important. Okay, and finally, results. All of the results that we get in our life, the results that we're getting, the connections that we make with people, the connections we don't have with people, the relationship we have, our ability to commit to getting married, or our ability to create a happy family unit, all of those are results. Losing 5 pounds or whatever it is, those are all results, and they happen because of our actions. This model, I feel like Vanna White, this model shows us that we are responsible for our results in our life always, 100%. Why? Because we always have a choice about how we feel. And those choices come from our thoughts. Okay? So if you were looking at this from a religious perspective and wanting to know, well, how does agency work in all of this? I would tell you that agency happens right here between the circumstance and the thought line. This is where all of your control lies, is when something happens outside of you, you get to choose what you think about it. Okay, now the biggest mistake people will make is that they will think that I'm telling them that they should choose to think good things so that they can just always feel good and feel happy. And that is nothing of the sort. That couldn't be farther from the truth about what I'm wanting to teach you. Because I believe that there is supposed to be opposition in all things. This life is 50-50. We are pretty much supposed to feel crappy probably 50% of the time. But we are choosing that on purpose. We are choosing to feel uncomfortable, or we are choosing to feel joy or happiness. It doesn't just happen to us. That is how we have all the control in our life, and we are not being controlled by other people. Okay, so this is the CTFAR model in a nutshell. The beauty about this model is it can be as simplistic when you fill it in, or as detailed as you want it to be. And either way, it's going to be extremely useful in your life. There are people who are just doing the CTFAR model for the first time, and this is super helpful. And there's people who are very far advanced in how they use this model, and it works amazingly for them too. This is the very first thing that I teach my clients. I do a lot of one-on-one coaching with individual clients, and this is the very first thing that I teach them, because it is the background for my coaching and how I will help them. And I want them to be able to do this on their own. People can coach themselves on their own for sure, especially when they have this model. Okay, so 2 ways that you use this model, okay? Number one, you use this model when you are seeing that you are not getting the results in your life that you want. When you see that you have fear that you just can't seem to get rid of. When you see that you're yelling at your stepchildren or your own children and you can't get control of that. You use the model to observe your own way of thinking. You use the model to see how you are creating your results, how you use the model to see what you're thinking and what those thoughts are getting for you. Do not ever underestimate the power of observing what you're thinking. If that's all you did was just be able to connect your thought with the action you're taking in your life would be night and day different by just observing that you are getting your results by what you think. Okay, so we use the model, number one, to observe what you're thinking. The other way to use the model, and I don't want to go into using it this way too much today, I just want to tell you that this is the other way it's used. We will use it this way in the future. But the other way you use this model is to now become intentional about creating what you want to create. Okay, to find the peace that you want to feel. We will talk about finding that peace, and how that's possible in using this model. But I want you to see that creating a model on purpose, using it intentionally is like, I needed a map in my hands when I was hiking that trail, and I didn't have one. I just thought I could make it on my own. I'd done it many times before, but one step in the wrong direction took me down a whole different path. And using the CTFAR model to become intentional helps us stay on path and create what we want to create. So we can use this model to then do and live our life on purpose rather than just reacting to the things that are going on around us. We plan it out and we choose ahead of time what we're going to do and what we're going to think and what we're going to create. We create our life on purpose. Okay, so I want to give you some real life examples, if that will stay. Okay, so the first thing I would have my clients do, find my marker here, if I was working with them, we were talking about something that they were struggling with, I would say, I want you to just tell me about this. So for you, if you're doing this on your own, I want you to grab a piece of paper and I want you to do what I would call a thought download. And you will write down everything, all the mean and nasty things that you're thinking about the situation, about the person. If it's the fear, write down all the reasons why you're so afraid. Why maybe getting married again to this particular person is a bad idea. And write it all down. Don't try to censor it. Don't try to edit it. Just get it out, okay? So this is called a thought download. If you want to do that right now, hit pause and then come back. If not, then just keep going with me here. So that's what I would have my clients do, is do a thought download. Now I will ask them and we will work through trying to figure out what the circumstance is in that thought download. So when you're doing, I'm going to turn my back to you for 2 seconds. I'm sorry. So this is how I would do the model. I should have put this board on the other side, but I didn't. So you would write the CTFAR going down the paper. We want to figure out what the circumstance is in your thought download. So let me give you a thought download of one of my clients. She is was engaged to get married. And she had gone through a pretty nasty divorce, left her with a lot of fear about proceeding into another marriage, afraid that she couldn't handle the pain or would be put in those situations again. But her biggest complaint, I shouldn't say complaint, the thing that was causing her a lot of struggle at this point in her life with this engagement is that she and her fiance, she shared with me, have some religious differences. She believed that God has a physical body, and he believed that God was just an overall kind of spirit. And she really struggled. Like, if we have these religious differences, I just don't see how we can make a marriage work. If he believes this and I believe that, like, what if that leads to other things? What if this is like a sign that there's too many other things that we believe differently and we just are never going to, it's just going to end in disaster? And I'm just seeing all of these red flags. Like, I see this problem that we could have and that problem that we could have, and I can see this problem and that problem. And I can't stop the fear. I'm so afraid to just jump in and commit to this. Okay, so I stopped her right there and I said, let's talk about what the facts are in the situation. Tell me the facts. And people will usually want to say, I'm super afraid, or we have different beliefs. And I will say, okay, but that's not a fact that you have different beliefs. We can't really prove 100% that you have different beliefs. That we can't prove 100% that your beliefs are actually different. Because what if, we don't know. We don't know for certain. It's not a fact that God does have a body. No one's ever seen that. Okay, we're getting into some religious things there, but I don't know what you believe, but none of this is necessarily pertains to that. But I want you to see that the fact is, he believes that God does not have a body. She believes that God has a body. That's the fact. There might be some other facts in there, meaning like we're engaged to get married on this date. That's a fact. He's a man, I'm a woman. That's a fact. Those are facts. But when you bring it down, when you can be pretty specific about the fact, it is helpful, and as you follow through into the model. So I'm going to write, he believes A. She believes B. So I'm just writing A and B to shorten it down. But so we'll just say God without body, God with body. I shortened it and then I wrote it down. Okay, when you take that, when you even just the very act of finding the facts in a thought download is really relieving. It helps reduce and kind of dissolve some of the drama. So when you say he believes A and I believe B, that's it. We have different, that's what it is. Now, that's neutral. And I know that for some of you that's going to trigger some, no, that's not neutral. That's scary. And a lot of the work what I do with my clients is in helping them see a circumstance as neutral. But today I just want you to go with me. I just want you to see he believes A, she believes B. And let's just say he believes that the earth is round, she believes that the earth is flat. If you need to take it from something that's dramatic for you that causes drama, you can do that. But let's just say he believes A, she believes B. She had a lot of fear. I'm going to skip down here and write fear. That's her feeling, okay? Because she knows she's afraid and she thinks it's because he believes A and she believes B. But the truth is she's afraid because of this thought right here. She doesn't really know what the thought is. So that's a lot of the work that we do is we try to figure out what the thought is. And what it came down to is that the thought that caused all the fear for her was that if we have differences, I'm going to get hurt. Okay? If we have differences, basically it's going to end tragically and I'm going to get hurt. Whoops, knocking that over. I'm going to get hurt. So we should believe the same things. We should not have differences. or I will get hurt. Okay. We should not have differences or I'm going to get hurt. It wasn't he believes A and she believes B that created fear. It was this thought. It was this thought. We should not have differences or else I will get hurt. That created the fear. That is golden. When you recognize it has nothing to do with him and it has everything to do with your thought, there's nothing more hopeful than recognizing that it's actually all in your power rather than him and wanting to somehow make him change so that you can get rid of your fear. So what happened in her life as a result of her fear? So that's what I asked her. What are the actions you take in your relationship or when you see him, when you are afraid? And she shared with me, well, I start scanning. When I'm afraid, my brain is scanning for all the things that I should be afraid of. So she said, I just see all the red flags. She would notice all of their differences, okay? And that's one of the things that our brain does. When we have a thought, it will look everywhere to try to prove that thought true, okay? So it's going to scan all of your surroundings trying to prove that you have differences and you should be afraid. So she's searching for all the red flags. She withdrew from him. She didn't really want to get close, fully commit. And that's kind of an inaction. I'm going to put not all in. She wasn't going all in into this relationship because she was like, I don't know. I don't know if it's really going to work out. Maybe it's not worth me going all in. Okay. She wasn't excited. So there's another inaction. Like that was part of not being all in. She wasn't really getting excited to maybe make any wedding plans or didn't really want to talk to people about it because there was kind of a question of whether or not it would happen. So I guess that would fall under the not all in category, but I would get really specific and write down all of the things that you were doing. Okay. Or that she was doing, in the action. So like I said, there's a lot of action being taken, looking, scanning, seeing all the red flags. There's a lot of inaction, withdrawing and not doing anything. And the result for her was they're definitely not getting closer together, right? They're not making a connection. She's not committing. That's another result. But ultimately, she's not committed. And ultimately, they do have differences. He believes that, sorry, I'm thinking back to my thought here. They do have differences. He believes that this marriage can work. She believes that it can't work. And their differing beliefs are actually causing her pain. His belief that they can, her belief that they can't, it's going to end tragically because she thinks that all she needs to do is step away and that fear will be gone because she thinks he's the one creating the fear. But really that fear is going to follow her wherever she goes because she's not figuring it out. She's not seeing that her fear is a result of her and not anything else. But the result ultimately is that they do have differences, and those differences are going to end tragically and cause her pain because she will be sad if their engagement doesn't follow into a marriage. She's creating all of her results by what she chooses to think, and because that creates the feeling of fear, all of her actions result in her results. Okay, so this is the CTFAR model done very basically. Like I said, it is the answer to the universe, if you ask me. It is how we solve any problem. And it is so powerful just to observe how we're thinking. Now, really quick, people will say, okay, well, if I'm creating all my results, I just want to make it better. Show me how I can make it better. And that's how we become intentional. I mentioned that earlier. And basically what you do is you plug in, something. If you know how you want to feel, or you know what you want your result to be, you plug it in and you actually create the model that way you want to create it. So if she knows she wants to feel peace, she wants to make an intentional model and she knows she wants to feel peace, then the trick is and it's not a trick, it's actually quite easy, is trying to figure out, and you try thoughts on like you try on clothes, what thought will create a feeling of peace. And when you figure that out and you can feel peace, your actions will follow suit and you'll get the result that you want. And you become intentional about creating it. This is a big piece for another class, but I just wanted to give you that little piece of it. So when you want to feel something on purpose, you got to think something different, and you have to actually believe what you're thinking. Because if you don't believe what you're thinking, then the thought will not help you feel a certain way. It'll backfire. But this is the model. The CTFAR model holds a secret to the universe. It's how we can feel peace about getting married again. It's how you can feel peace in knowing you can create the family unit that you want to create when you do get married again. All right, friends, thank you for being here. It was a great class. If you have questions, heather@heatherrackham.com. If you need help finding a circumstance to be neutral, shoot me an email, and I would love to help you work through some things. If you want the worksheets, cheat sheets, same thing, heather@heatherrackham.com, and I'll help you out. I'll send it your way. All right. Have a great one.